Dear friends, today's talk is dedicated to Bhante Sila Wimala, who is the chief of the American Buddhist Seminary in West Sacramento and Berkeley. Just this weekend, we attended the Katina ceremony at the ABS Temple in Sacramento and heard again the teaching that Bhante gives to the children and the families. He speaks in terms of the ordinary aspirations and worries of people. Parents want to have a decent home for their families. They want the children to get a good education. They want the children to be happy. They want the children to get a good job. They want to avoid quarrels. He gives a very simple kind of lessons again and again. You know, I've been attending those events at the ABS Temple since I got to California in 2010, so for the past 12 years. And I'm pretty sure that this monk has been saying the same thing for much longer than 12 years, since he's been around teaching since 1964. So many of the parents and even the grandparents have been hearing this same teaching from Bhante since they were children. And he tells them, just be nice. Be nice. It's really important. Don't fall into quarrels and anger and ugliness. Be nice. Be friendly. Be nice. And he teaches them that generosity is the source of wealth. You know, we hear this. It's part of the verse that's recited in the blessing that we give each time somebody takes the precepts. If they take the 5 precepts or the 8 precepts, we say Silena Sugatim Yanti, Silena Bhogasampada. So that virtue is the source of happiness. Virtue is the source of wealth. And there's something that those who have read other refined and very important teachings about disenchantment, about not grasping and not clinging to anything at all, seems to be sort of like opposite to this idea that virtue is the source of wealth. And yet, there it is, right there in the suttas. And Bhante Sila very freely lets the children and the parents build up a beautiful picture in their mind of all the kind and generous and good dana that they're giving, creating this great big mountain of merit, which she compares to a great big suitcase filled with money. And, that there is something about an accumulation of merits. You could say that another way of thinking about it would be if we reflect about the quality of our intentions, the quality of our actions. If we see that an action is harmful to ourselves or to another, we give up that action. But if we see that the thing that we want to do is harmless to ourselves, harmless to another, harmless to everybody, that there's no harm at all coming from that action, in other words, it's a skillful action, then we see in the sutta that that action can be done again and again. We can keep on repeating. We don't have to hesitate. We don't have to say, well, I was nice for a minute yesterday and now that's enough. I don't have to do it anymore. No, we keep continuing with that. So there's a way in which we could take this expression that this Dhamma is Adi Kalyana, or good in the beginning, or beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, and beautiful in the end. And I'm choosing today to think of it as being that this Dhamma, even for somebody who is a ordinary, unenlightened person, in Pali they call it the Putujana, that's somebody who has not fully gotten hold of right view, who has not awakened the Dhamma eye, who's not safe from falling into unskillful patterns, would be the beginning. And this Dhamma is still good for that person. And then the Madhya Kalyana, the beautiful in the middle, I'm going to say that this could apply to somebody who is a trainee, somebody who has had the opening of the Dhamma eye, who has gotten hold of, who's acquired a right view in terms of the Four Noble Truths and causation, and who's dropped a big part of delusion, who's had a real transformation of their way of seeing the world, and yet they still have work to do. They're still not free from unwholesome tendencies completely. They still are not yet at the goal. And this training is beautiful for them as well. And then the beautiful in the end would be the quality of the one who is the fully enlightened arahant, who still is existing in this world, the one who's still alive, who still has some remainder to have those five aggregates be together, and those physical body and the life force is not yet finished, and they have the tremendous opportunity to enjoy the fruit of what they've gained in their practice, and also out of compassion to be able to be present in the world with their awakened mind. And so that teaching is still at the end. So even one who is fully enlightened arhat doesn't need to give up sila, or beautiful virtuous conduct. In fact, their conduct would naturally be beautiful and virtuous, and they don't give up practicing meditation. In fact, the meditation is where they go for the pleasant abiding, and they don't give up speaking about the Dhamma. They do speak about the Dhamma. So I do very often see, and I'm so grateful to have this group and other groups like it, and the visitors who come to Dhammadharini and those who have not maybe had so many years of practicing with this Dhamma, who still have the beginner's mind, who still have the doubts and questions. Question like, what is this non-self anyway? And to be able to see how powerful and transformative this practice and this Dhamma can be for people at those beginning stages, just as in the middle. And people may encounter this idea about when we, well, let me just go through it. Okay, so just to give a rough outline, and you may have some of your own ideas to share in a little while about this. It seems to me that this person who has not yet gotten hold of the right view, to whom Nibbana is just a word on the page, not really something that they could conceive of what it would be. Someone for whom the thought of the cessation of dukkha is just a concept but doesn't really seem possible. For whom letting go of the self is, again, it's more like a theory than something that one really has the direct personal experience with. Even a person like that, it's for these people that the teaching about kamma in terms of the causation that is based on that unpleasant feeling, unpleasant experience is the result, is the fruition that arises from unskillful motivations. And a pleasant feeling is the result of skillful or meritorious motivations. So one can see the kamma with immediate result in the sense that if you happen to see a prisoner who's being paraded down the street, who's being subjected to all kinds of torture as a punishment for their crime, that person did an unwholesome deed and they received the karmic result of that by the agency of the government or the ruler who caught the criminal and is punishing them. And then if one happens to continue or to be behaving with evil, unwholesome thought, the thought of cruelty, the thought of harming, the thought of greed, the thought of ill will, the thought of selfishness, that then it would be possible to be reborn into a realm, a hellish kind of a realm, to be spending a long time in a painful existence, or even to be reborn in some existence that was mostly painful. These kind of ideas are not very easy to accept for modern, highly educated, scientific educated people, because it seems more like a fairy tale or something that you would tell a child to, convince a child to behave themselves. And yet we can see very easily, at least within this lifetime, that by our own intentions, we build up a world. And the world that we have built up through our intentions is then the one we get to live in. So here in the suburbs, you could have several, houses down the street, and all the houses look the same on the outside. But if you went on the inside and you met that family, that mother, father, and those children, you might see that one family is sort of like almost heaven the way they live, with kindness and consideration towards each other, towards appreciation and joy, and knowing the value of cultivating a beautiful character, even discussing ethical questions and coming to become more mature and more settled and more clear in the ethics that family might hold. And you could see the beauty of the kids in those families having a chance to grow up and evolve and become ethically mature people, because they had a chance to see it modeled and to develop that through their own personal growth in discussion with the family and with the parents. And then you could have some other family where the parents are completely lost in their own mental illness, that the parents are behaving with cruelty and towards themselves and cruelty towards the children, and caught up in addiction and being running away with addictive pleasures, and then being spending half the time in misery and half the time in escapism, and having that be modeled, and having the children learn to live a life like that, and so and as those choices create that world and create that universe, it becomes the universe that we live in, even though the two houses look exactly the same on the outside. On the inside, they're completely different. And what you aim for would naturally come to be the kind of future that may come to you. So it's for this reason that smart parents who want their children to be happy might emphasize the precepts, and might live a life and model a life at least observing 5 precepts, and practicing generosity in a way that was very open, and modeling it, and giving chances for their little ones to learn the joy of giving, the joy of generosity, and for the little ones to learn that having a certain amount of self-control in terms of being capable of following the precepts actually creates a stable and happy life. And so then that practice of virtue is its own reward. So this is the practice that's beautiful in the beginning. then cultivating loving kindness is the next most important element of the beginner's practice. Obviously, it doesn't stop just for beginners. None of it stops. It continues, but it gets transformed. So, holding unbounded loving kindness towards all beings is called the divine abiding, because it is the practice that could lead to a rebirth in heavenly realm. And living a life that's overflowing with kindness, that is ethically mature, in the sense of having enough ability of being capable of making choices and keeping the choices that one's made, combined with the joyfulness of loving kindness. That's the beautiful practice, and this is kind of like what I see Bhante Sila teaching those young families. And indeed, if we look around, it's said that I'm stepping outside of Buddhism, but stepping into the world of some pop science. It's said that culture can get into a kind of a human cultures can get into a kind of a virtuous synergy where things are somewhat stabilized, and the government is stabilized, and the society is stabilized, and the people are good, and they expect that if they do good deeds, that they'll have a happy result from their good deeds, and so that expectation, and then there's a kind of a social pressure to be good, because it becomes like that's the normal behavior within that culture, is to be good, and this is what people strive for, and what they aspire to. Even if you have a minority of just a few people who are not able to be good, and okay, so but they're a minority, so it's the synergy, the overall tone of the culture is good, and then there could be another culture where it's kind of like a war-torn situation where the society is dominated by brutal gangs who are just using brute force and stealing, where there is all the parts of society are at war with each other, or the society is taken up by being at war with enemies that were killing, stealing, and all kinds of misconduct, and combined with intoxication, are become the norm, and so that kind of a culture can fall into a vicious synergy and can be that way for a long time. So if you looked at the world today, you might think that this modern world is slipping into a vicious synergy that maybe we don't expect. We don't know if the average person is going to try to be good or not. And so in that case, a lot of people are in danger of hell. And as a Dhamma teacher, I might not be able to get through to them with comprehending the Four Noble Truths. But I might be able to get through to them with the idea that it's not necessary to live in hell, and that it's possible to let go of those patterns that keep us in a hellish existence. And not only is it possible, it's urgent, it's vital, it's important, it's really significant. And this is why I hear Bhante Sila saying, be nice, just be nice, be nice. And he's giving this same message again and again for more than 50 years of teaching those children. So the first thing is to reach a kind of like a safety, at least get some kind of a purchase to know that it's not necessary to keep going around in a cycle that is including of the hellish misery. The ethics then of that Putujana, that unenlightened ethics of nevertheless holding on to 5 precepts, or holding on to some precepts in order, is what in modern philosophy I think is called virtue ethics, which means that one, if you hold a certain kind of ethics, you become a certain type of person. You're the type of person who doesn't kill, doesn't steal, doesn't commit sexual misconduct, doesn't do sexual misconduct, doesn't use intoxicants, doesn't tell falsehoods, who speaks in a way which is harmonious and inclining towards peace and reconciliation. And so then one becomes that kind of person. Now, in the middle way, the way that the path is beautiful in the middle, for one who has had that eye-opening realization that the cessation of dukkha is real. It's a real thing that can be experienced, and that even before we experience the complete cessation of dukkha of the fully enlightened person, we can see that great glaciers of dukkha have broken off and floated away because of the transformation of our view, and being able to see the 3 marks, the impermanence, the non-self, and the unsatisfactoriness within this world of samsara, to see that it's not necessary to cling onto this world of samsara, that it's not desirable to lose the desire, the commitment, the belief, the dedication to this world of samsara. That becomes lost. We're in this middle part of our path. And at that point, our morality has got a different kind of a basis. Instead of simply being sort of a morality related to merits and demerits, or heaven and hell, or this character virtue, instead we have come to understand the taints which are characteristic of this samsaric existence, the taint of sensual desire, the taint of existence, and the taint of ignorance. And we've seen the connection between virtue and these defilements. We've seen that unwholesome and unskillful behavior supports the growth, increase, and perpetuation of these defilements, whereas skillful behavior weakens, undermines, and allows these defilements to begin to lose their force, lose their prevalence, to gradually become less and less, to become less dominating, less domineering, until eventually we can foresee that this wish for the idea of the purification idea, which is the major part of the work of the trainee, this purification of the mind, is that we become more and more like a profoundly and eagerly motivated to see if we are able to fully purify the heart from the taint of the sensuality or sensual desire, or the taint of thinking or wishing that we can stabilize ourselves and stand on any form of any level of existence. Seeing the danger in delusion and whatever is less than really being willing to be face to face, to be fully accepting of reality, how it is, that then we have, it's like the sila is it's a kind of it's an energizing, positive force in our practice, moving us to do that which is supporting the gradual eradication of the taints. So there is said in this middle path, this is the level at which I don't want to have a great, suitcase full of merit, which I would compare to having a suitcase full of money, which is going to make me safe. Because I have realized the danger in any kind of clinging at all, and I become willing to let go of that. And yet, as long as I'm a trainee, I still will inevitably be experiencing along the way that there are these profound habits of the mind that are reaching after pleasure, reaching for delight, reaching for the comfort of the stability of having a definite status in the world, being worried about a position, even being, let's say, if you look at the eight worldly winds, these are things that one should be indifferent to. But even somebody who was a trainee, if they were like strongly and beautifully praised, you could see like, oh, something in me is still becoming like tempted by this praise. Or if one is strongly and firmly criticized, whether the criticism is fair or it's not fair, you could find something in you that is still like reactive to that criticism and still wants to start, spinning around with some kind of like a justifications or rebuttals or a reaction to protect oneself from that criticism. And so even though we have seen that these things are just the eight worldly winds, they're not significant. They're not fundamental at all. And they ought not to be the basis that one becomes puffed up with delight, or else one becomes deflated and crushed with depression or some other reaction. Nevertheless, as a trainee, we still see we have these tendencies in us, and this is why, as we go through this training, the whole practice of the vipassana practice of having the clarity of being able to see clearly what the state of the citta is, whether it's purified or not purified in that moment, whether it's clear or whether it's dark, and being willing to let go and energized to do the work that supports continuing to go down this path of purification. I know that some people I've even encountered some Dhamma teachers at different times in my life who seemed like they went partway down the path of training, and then they became reasonably happy, reasonably successful, and lost interest in reaching the goal. And instead, they're kind of living in this world where they're accumulating merits, being good people, having some wisdom about impermanence and the dangers of the ego, that they've become like flexible about that, and they could be really virtuous people, like humble, nice, kind, good people, but the final relinquishing of this clinging to existence is still yet a step too far, and we may lose our motivation, but we shouldn't lose our motivation. Just as I think when we're talking to people who are in danger of hell, and we say, "Be nice, please, be nice, be nice. You've got to be more nice. You've got to get merits, do good things. Get merits. It's a protection for you. It's going to save you from hell. Be generous, be kind. It'll save you from that hell realm." And then at the same time, for those of us who are in this middle path of our training, I think we do still need this voice that's pulling us and reminding us to go beyond that, to go to actually relinquishing that last clinging to any kind of existence, that last pull towards this world that we live in now. This is the world of sensuality, and actually losing all of our commitment to that, and yet being able to still carry on until the rest of the amount of time that we have left in this lifespan. I'm not sure that I have. I've been speaking in large part, not so much from the text as from putting it together from experience. So the way that the fully enlightened Arahant practice is beautiful at the end, I want to speak about from a direct personal experience, but I would speak about it from reading and knowing about the behavior that we expect from Buddhists and what we expect from Arahants. And we don't expect them to be disconnected from the world. We expect them to actually be fully present. I've heard that some of the great teachers are kind of like a distant star, and that they are very neutral in their deportment. But nevertheless, even a teacher like that is experiencing the ultimate happiness, the bliss of Nibbana. So that's my my thought for the moment. But I don't that I'm interested in holding in such a way that one can be disillusioned with samsara and nevertheless appreciate the value of people whose practice is involved in merit. So just the same way as those who are, if we imagine ourselves as a trainee and we still have to have the nutriment of food, we still have the nutriment of contact through the senses, we still have the nutriment of our volitional formations, so we still have the nutriment of consciousness, and we are living in this world, consuming and using these nutriments, which are involved with continuing existence. So we're living a life that's connected with continuing existence, but at the same time, we're aiming for relinquishment. It's a bit of a con, but actually not really. And so I believe that the Buddha did not simply point to the summit of Mount Meru and tell the person who's drowning to just go to the summit of the mountain. Instead, he gives them a ladder. He gives them a path and shows them a way to go from here to there. I invite any comments or questions from those who are here in this room, or from those who are at the Wat Buddhanusorn, or those who are present online. Okay, Richard.
Thank you. Dana is charity is one of the paramis, and the word parami actually comes from like a word kind of like meaning quality. And my personal opinion is the benefit that you get from charity is the development of the charitable mind. Your mind develops that quality of being loving and caring and trying to be helpful, to others. So that's why you give. I know there are some suttas where they talk about, if you give to an animal, you get this much in return, and if you give this, you get this much in return, and blah blah. And it goes all the way up to the Buddha. This is just my opinion, but I don't think that that's original teaching at all, because if you were to give in charity to the Buddha and get, say you gave him a meal, and therefore now you get 1,000,000 meals or something in return, right? Well, what does a million meals mean to you? It means you have to take birth and samsara over and over and over again to exhaust that million meals. So, is that, is that, something good, and also the idea to give in charity to get something in return, doesn't sound very charitable, in my mind. So I think it's, at least my opinion is that it really means that you're developing that parami, that quality of mind, of giving mind. And that's why, taking the 5 precepts, that's like an expansion of charity, really. Because now you're expanding your mind and you're saying, oh, I don't want to hurt or kill anybody. I don't want to steal from anyone. I don't want to, do it. You're like expanding your awareness now, to like an even greater mind. And so that's another quality, of mind that you're developing, etc. As you go through the paramis. I had another point, but unfortunately, I forgot what it was.
So this character of the mind, which is charitable and loves to give, is also comes very close to the relinquishment that you're able to give away everything. In the Jataka stories, the ultimate of charity is when you're willing to give away your own children and your own wife, and your own. First, you give away your kingdom, and you give away your elephant, and then you give away your daughters, and you give away your wife, and it sort of seems like a weird to us to think that that could be good, but for the purpose of this tale, in the Jataka story, they it's representing the giving up of the self identity, which is sort of like when you become not so selfish in being generous, is a kind of a preamble to being able to relinquish that attachment to the self.
Right. Oh, I remember what the other item was. Cessation, the third noble truth, cessation of craving. So, and the way to that is the Eightfold Path. And if you think of the Eightfold Path, the final part of the Eightfold Path is samadhi. And the highest samadhi is to enter into the 5th formless state, which is cessation. Cessation, in my opinion, the correct translation is cessation of sense perception. What is it that you're craving? You're craving sense perception, right? you want to have some kind of experience of your senses. So when you get to the very end of the Eightfold Path, the highest thing is to actually experience that, to actually experience the cessation of sense perception. And then that leads, the Buddha says, if you're a Buddhist and you're one of the noble disciples, that will lead automatically to either becoming a no-returner, or if you can completely eradicate I call them 3 blockages, but other people, use other terms. If you completely eradicate those, you become an arahant. So I think it's interesting if you think about that. You know what I mean? That's the highest possible samadhi. Buddha said that there's no escape beyond that. Each level was kind of an escape beyond, a refinement, an escape, a keep going, a liberation, so to speak, right? He says, but there's no escape beyond that. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that was the other point I wanted to make. Thank you very much.
I think those who do not practice meditation to that level ought to consider that the attachment to sense contact then becomes a block that one has to be able to relinquish that in order to reach into those meditations, where then you can have something experientially that is so transformative, to realize that, the water that I've been swimming in all my life is actually optional, that we don't need that, we don't need it. There is a sense, very much of a sense of wanting and seeing are so much connected that we don't, a lot of times we want to see things in a certain way because we're protecting something. And so the craving is supporting the delusion. The reason why we can't see things more accurately or more truthfully as they are is because actually we don't want to. We don't want to see them as they are. But then, there's kind of like it's like a ladder, sort of step by step by step. One can even just having the personal greatness or courage to be able to face up to things that are very frightening and difficult to face up to, such as illness, old age, sickness, and death. Just learning how to face up to those realities and to let get out of denial about those realities is like a huge step towards them, and then that supports cutting off a lot of unwholesome desires that were involved with trying to run away from old age, sickness, and death. And that supports calmness, and the calmness supports seeing. And so then it's that there is the synergy of this growth that we have along the path.